My name is Victor Fuhrman. Some call me the Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me now and we will explore these topics and so much more with fascinating guests, authors, and experts who will guide us to Destination Unlimited. Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, can occur after you've been through a trauma. A trauma is a shocking and dangerous event that you see or that happens to you. Going through trauma is not rare. About 60% of men and 50% of women experience at least one trauma in their lives. According to the National Institute of Health, about 7 or 8 out of every 100 people, or 7 to 8% of the population, will have PTSD at some point in their lives. About 8 million adults have PTSD during a given year. This is only a small portion of those who have gone through a trauma. PTSD can lead to depression, anxiety, and a serious interruption of one's life. Treatment often involves a variety of therapies and medication. Is there a newer, more positive, and life-affirming approach to treating and healing trauma? My guest this week on Destination Unlimited, Dane Stevens, is an author, speaker, and facilitator. He's the developer of the Neurotrauma Healing Process, NTHP, and the Soul Recognition Process, SRC. These healing modalities were developed out of sheer necessity as he had his nervous system seriously compromised by a well-meaning therapist who tried to force a childhood trauma out of him. It left him in a state of constant anxiety and turned his life into complete shambles, leaving him homeless, afraid, and out of control. It took him 5 years to understand what had happened to him and another year to discover what would give him relief and give him his life back. The result of that 5-year search is the Neurotrauma Healing Process, NTHP. Dane now lives very happily in the interior of British Columbia with his life partner, Anne. They teach the neurotrauma healing process to those in need of healing and those wanting to get trained in this profound new process. Dane feels incredibly lucky to have come through what he has and blessed to have discovered the process that brought deep peace, connection, and fulfillment into his life. His websites are danestevensonline.com and anextraordinarylife.ca, and he joins me this week to share his story and his book, Reclaim Your Power to Create Your Best Life. Welcome to Destination Unlimited, Dane Stevens. Welcome, Dane.
Thank you so much, Victor. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for joining us. You know, those NIH statistics I shared were from 2018, and I dare to say that 2020, when this year is over, the numbers might be even more staggering. We truly need to address this now, don't we?
Yeah. And like when we say trauma, I just want to sort of clarify trauma. We tend to think of it as, like you spoke about, a big T trauma. There's called big T trauma and little T trauma. And a big T trauma is where we know we've been traumatized. And that's what you're speaking about, being in war or experiencing a car crash or being abused in some serious way, in a big physical or emotional way. But we can be affected by trauma by very small things that we don't necessarily know about. If we grew up living with a high-functioning alcoholic, that alcoholism itself is a form of self-abuse, and it can help but be passed on. So we might not even know we're experiencing trauma or have a trauma set in, but we've had to alter our behavior because of this person, and it changed our outflow of energy. Another example is neglect, which it seems like nothing happened. And that's exactly right. And because of that, we have either made a decision about ourselves or somehow to change our natural outflow of energy, our natural behavior, which has caused a trauma. So you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody that doesn't have some degree of what is termed trauma looping in them. So, yeah.
What is neurotrauma healing, NTHP, and also soul recognition?
So NTHP is the healing aspect of this work. You mentioned what happened to me, and I was a mess. I was in constant fight or flight, and I just wanted relief. And so the neurotrauma healing process is what got me that relief, and we will talk about that later more, I'm sure. But what happens, which I had no idea and did not expect, is when we do heal these parts of ourselves, when we slow down and actually stop the tapes that have been running incessantly inside of us, what happens is that space, which equals peace, gets this peace allows what I'll call our higher consciousness to come through. That space opens up, and what comes through is our nature in essence. And our nature is peaceful. It is powerful. It is creative. It is abundant. It is healthy. It is beautiful. That's our nature. And when we get these erroneous beliefs about ourselves, which have been caused or which are the source of the disconnection from our authentic self, when we are able to bring those into present time and those tapes no longer run, that's what comes through us. And that's what I experienced, almost feelings of euphoria in the start because it was so foreign. But, peace becomes your nature. When we do this work, the NTHP work, it's not a coping skill. It's not about trying to blow through or overcome anything, and it's not a compensation. You get to bring the issue that has been causing this dysfunction in your life to resolution. And therefore, if it's not looping inside of you, in your nervous system, trying to process itself, the inside being the creator of what we experience, the outside simply changes. When the inside changes, the outside changes. There's nothing to do. So it seems quite magical, but it shows us how we're working and shows us that life truly is an inside job.
What exactly do these processes do?
So in order to explain that properly, I'm going to explain about how trauma forms first. And how that happens is the information, the data comes in through the right brain. The right brain is formless. It's color, it's sound, it's the senses. So the right brain experiences the full picture and sends it to the left brain to be made sense of, understood, and filed. If it's that too scary, too outrageous, too bizarre, that left brain can't make sense of it, can't get a grip on it, we'll say, can't handle it, so it rejects it and sends it back to the right brain. What does the right brain do? The right brain does what the right brain does. Sees it, feels it, experiences it in its entirety, and then sends it to the left brain to be made sense of, filed, and understood. And once again, if it's too much, if it's too overwhelming for that left brain to make sense of and file, it rejects it and it sends it back, and the loop has begun. And this looping, this issue trying to process itself in your nervous system is continually looping in you. So therefore, you're continuing to experience this internally. The brain's MO is survival. So it doesn't want this barrage of unwanted information that it can't figure out to get in your way, because it gets in the way of your survival. So it will push it out of the way, hence to the subconscious. Is it gone? Is it out of the way? Not at all. It's still very much alive, looping in your nervous system, unprocessed, trapped somewhere in your body. So what the neurotrauma healing process does that make sense, Victor?
Yes, absolutely. Please continue.
Okay, so what we do is we give you direct access to your subconscious mind through a left-right brain exercise or process. And what that does is it gives you direct access in a safe and gentle manner to the part that is experiencing that. And I'll say most traumas come from our childhood, but it doesn't matter where your trauma came from. But when you have access to that, it brings you back to that time. Because what happens in a time of trauma is time stops. We've probably all seen somebody, an adult, maybe even a prominent adult, who gets his buttons pushed and all of a sudden he acts like he's 6 years old. And maybe that's exactly right. That he got triggered by something that brought that issue back, that the synapses fired in his brain, and all of a sudden he's that 6-year-old child again who's afraid or angry or withdrawn or whatever that is. So when we give you access to that, we allow this part to speak. we allow this part to, therefore, we create enough safety, enough trust where it feels safe enough to speak, and we get to give this part what it didn't get at that time. It's maybe safety, maybe trust, maybe recognition, respect, whatever that is. And when you're able to give that part what it needs, the tape stops. And we're able to literally bring that part from that time of wounding, from that time of trauma, back into this present moment where it's not happening anymore. Mm. And when we do that, there's no tape. The tape is no longer running inside of you. Therefore, when you go through an experience that would have normally triggered you, there's just nothing there, and you're present with it. A good example of where that might happen is with family. Nobody pushes their buttons like family. So it might be a situation where we're in a family setting and an occurrence happens where normally you would get mad or be in tears or leave, and it's just not there. And you're sitting there going, isn't this interesting? You're just present and there's nothing to be triggered. So it's quite profound in that way that you can bring it to full resolution.
And these processes are very natural, aren't they?
They are. They really are just showing us how we work. And in that, giving us our power of choice or our power back. And in showing us how we work, they show us that we are creating our world from the inside out. They're showing us why we're getting what we're getting in our life, and also, why we're not getting what we say we want. It literally shows us how we work and sort of reintroduces us to our nature that we haven't known. I was just going to say that, like you mentioned, there's so many people dealing with trauma out there and want to heal, but they haven't known how. We know a lot about trauma, but we haven't had a lot of solution. I don't know if there's not a lot that comes to resolution, brings it to full resolution. So this is an opportunity to resolve that and not have to keep dealing with it.
Are there any side effects to the process?
The only warning I would give is if you don't want to have change, if you're not ready to change. There's no side effects because it's really bringing you back to your normal, what I'm going to call your natural state that may have not been your natural state for most of your life. But it takes these, once again, erroneous beliefs and these negative experiences that have affected you so much and brings you into the light of day where you can re-choose and you can have your power of choice back. So it just takes these parts of you that are out of alignment with the truth about you, it takes them, brings them back into this present moment, back into the light of day, where they're not continuing to run from your past and ruin your life. So there really are no side effects when you start this work. Yes, we do bring up that part that had that experience. But when we do that, we suggest you work with a facilitator first, because we don't want somebody who's dealing with a big trauma to not know what to do or not know how to handle it. So when you work with a facilitator, that facilitator can guide you through the maze of the subconscious mind and make sure you get the results that you want. And we don't keep our clients for long. It's not about sitting on the couch telling your story for 2 years. Once you make that connection, which you should make in the first session, and once you get traction, and what traction is a consistently healthy and positive relationship, connection in a relationship to that life inside of you. Once you have that, you can take the work over on your own, and it doesn't take that long, surprisingly enough.
You had said the only side effect is change. So many people are resistant to change and would rather stay as they are and suffer in a sense and not make that change. Why do you think so many people are resistant to change?
Yeah, it's mind-boggling, I have to say. But what we know tends to be, what we want to stay with that tends to equate safety, on the level of the thinking mind. I'm going to say on the level of the egoic mind. So it literally keeps us from moving forward. But it does amaze me how, any kind of change, it scares us. And it's ironic, you work with somebody who is experienced abuse, maybe from one of their parents, and therefore they attract somebody else that abuses them. And it's what we know, and safety. We tend to be attracted to what we know because what we know, it's not a surprise. And it amazes me how the unknown is the biggest fear. If we go into this and we allow what wants to come out, it's quite fascinating how much we can really heal. But we have to be willing, yeah. And like you say, it doesn't seem like a conscious choice. You're not choosing to. But it seems like it's a part of the human psyche to trust what we know or not want to change what we know, even if it's not good for us.
The old expression, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't.
That's exactly right, Victor. Yeah.
What happened to you that put your central nervous system into a tailspin and caused your life to fall apart?
Yeah, I was actually doing very well in my life. I had a coaching training business at that point, and I was doing very well and had great employees, making great money, and living in a beautiful place off the ocean and driving the vehicle of choice, all that stuff. And, I was quite happy with everything except for my relationships, which were short-lived. I would sabotage or destroy the relationship and seek intimacy elsewhere quite readily. And it came to the point where I went, this is a pattern. Why do I keep doing this? Why can't I stay in a relationship? And it made me question whether I dealt with a childhood issue, abuse issue or not. And I knew I had to look at it, so I went and did some groups and did a bunch of different types of counseling and different therapies, and nothing seemed to work for me. And then I was referred to a therapist / healer from somebody I'd met, and I went to her, and I knew nothing of trauma at that time. I knew a little bit about energy, but nothing about trauma. So I really was in her hands. And she said she assessed me and said I had a circ in my lower chakra, which is the lower region of your torso, which made sense. And she asked me if I would like to, and it was a number of sessions in where she asked if I'd like to try and force the trauma out. And I had no knowledge of trauma, and she likened it to hitting a home run. And, sure, let's hit a home run. But I didn't get told that I could hit a foul ball too. And it broke, and like she told me when it broke, stuff's going to happen. And I can remember very vividly, even to this day, where she had me on the bed, twisted in some different position, telling me to go there. And I was so out in the ozone that I couldn't even tell which way was up. And when I came off the table, it's like I had jittery platelets. I had this fearful, unstable feeling inside of me. And I just assumed it would pass. I'd already done a number of sessions with her previously, but I just assumed that this was just a passing thing and didn't know what it was. But it did not. If anything, it got worse. And I kept seeing her, but this feeling of instability, of fear was still inside of me. It's like I was plugged into a 220-volt outlet, and I couldn't handle it. I just felt totally unstable. And the inside, being the crater of the outside, my whole world started to fall apart around me. And I wasn't a millionaire, but I had some money. But I kept seeing her till I ran out of money, and then she wouldn't see me anymore. But I think more so because she didn't know how to fix what she'd done, and I was out of control. And within 18 months, I was broke, and within 3 years, I was homeless. And I went in a mad search to figure out what the hell happened to me and how to get my life back. And that put me into a complete state of fight or flight on a consistent everyday basis. It was I couldn't hang on to anything. Horrible. Yeah.
And we're going to pick up on what you did after that experience. My guest is Dane Stevens. He's the author of Reclaim Your Power to Create Your Best Life. Dane, please tell our listeners where they can get your book and find out more about you and this very, very important work.
Yeah. So the book is Reclaim Your Power to Create Your Best Life. And you can get that on Amazon, or you can go to my website, danestevensonline.com, and get it there. Or you can go to anextraordinarylife.ca, and you can get it in either one of those places too, and learn more about the process there as well. So.
And we'll be back with more of Dane Stevens and Reclaim Your Power to Create Your Best Life after these words on the OMTimes Radio Network.
the best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
A social distancing tip.
Putting distance between yourself and others is critical to slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are ways to stay in contact without the physical contact part. Call, send a text, set up a video conference, post on social media, dedicate a song on the radio. If you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
So I'm a cat, and I just moved in with this new human, and she's got this little toy she's always playing with, all day long. Tap, 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 bloop, bloop. She can't put it down. There it is. Oh, and get this. She even talks to it. Last week, she asked it for Chinese, and guess what? Egg rolls showed up. Like magic. Humans have cool toys.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
Vox Novus expands the horizons of Destination Unlimited, providing a platform for popular culture, lifestyles, interfaith spirituality, personal empowerment, environmental concerns, inspiration, and so much more. Each week I will present authors and experts who will share from their experience and offer tools to help us navigate this rapidly changing world. Join me, Victor the Voice Fuhrman, each Thursday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and listen to the Vox Novus, the new voice. Back on Destination Unlimited, my guest this week is Dane Stevens. He's the author of Reclaim Your Power to Create Your Best Life. So you talked about what happened, causing the tailspin that caused your life to fall apart. What did you do after that?
Then I sought out whatever I thought could help me and give me relief, whether it be counseling, whether it be some different modality, whether it was, I remember doing one, and it was a crazy one where they actually, were beating you on the floor. I did a lot of stuff. I tried everything to try and get relief. And nothing seemed to equate. 5 years after this happened, I met Hazel Carter, who knew exactly what happened to me, ironically enough, because that's what happened to her. She had a healer, what have you, try and force a trauma out of her, and it messed her up. Now she's a trauma specialist, and she's doing very well. So that gave me great hope in meeting Hazel and her explaining what happened. And she learned through the Peter Levine somatic experiencing. Do you know Peter Levine?
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's where I learned about trauma and how trauma works. I didn't get the healing that I was looking for there, but just meeting Hazel and understanding how trauma works, that alone gave me some relief. And it wasn't until close to a year later, where I ran into John Bradshaw's work. And it was a left-right brain process where I actually connected, and I knew that I connected to that hurt, wounded part in me. And it was such an exciting time because I knew I made the connection. And I tried to do his work on my own and tried to make a connection and a relationship with this hurt, wounded part of me, but I couldn't do it. I was ended up being like an 8-month fight with myself. I knew it was there, and I knew I'd connected with it, but I couldn't make it feel safe enough, and I couldn't unfreeze it. So at that point, I started searching for somebody who did this work because I knew I'd made the connection, knew it was there. And I phoned counselors and therapists and scoured the internet, and nobody did it, and nobody had any interest in doing it. I even tried to talk people into trying this work with me, and nobody would do it. And I found somebody, this was kind of wild, at that point right across the street from me after looking for months and months. And she was right across the street from me and had done this work and was willing to work with me doing this process. This is the foundation of this process. So I worked with Mary, and within 2 months, I had gotten the relief that I was seeking of working with her. And after that, I continued on with the work myself, and the full process just kind of flowed out of me. It feels like I can't take any credit for it because it just flowed out of me, and it's not new. It's just never been developed, and I don't know why that is, but I guess that's what I'm here to do, is to develop this left-right brain process, which gives you this direct access. And so that's how the process came to be. And like I say, it went a whole lot further than I thought it would. It went into empowerment, where I just wanted relief. I just wanted to not be in a state of fear consistently every day. So when it went into such a piece that I connected with, higher consciousness and this love intelligence inside of me, it was a profound experience, to say the least. Yeah.
Share with our listeners a little about how you develop these processes.
So the left-right brain processes, they're both left-right brain processes. The neurotrauma healing process deals with the healing aspect, with the traumatic aspect. And it is through giving ourselves, or giving the client, I'll say, direct access to that wounded part, or that part of that is out of alignment with the truth of you. We do that through a left-right brain process, and you access the subconscious mind through emotion. So yes, we have to revisit that place where the energy is held, but it's not about staying there, and it's not about hanging out in that. It's about giving that part what it needs. It's about making that part feel safe and reconnecting it again. And we do that through inner compassionate connection. The therapist that I originally saw tried to force the trauma out of me. That is exactly the wrong thing to do. I mean, that's probably the biggest trauma I experienced in my life. So what you want to do is you want to create trust, and you want to actually create a relationship with this part inside of you, this life inside of you. And that's what makes it sustainable, is it's a relationship. So it's not a quick fix. It takes time and it takes effort. But when you do this work, you bring it to full resolution because it's a relationship. It's ongoing. And through this inner compassionate connection, you bring this part out of that cycle of looping, trying to process itself or re-experiencing that event. You unfreeze that and slowly bring that part into the present time of day, like I said previously, where it's not happening anymore. So through connecting to that left-right brain process, you make a connection and a relationship with that part, and it develops inside of you and comes into present time, into you. And then that part is all available, all that energy is available and usable.
And one of the techniques is alternate handwriting. How does this work?
Well, that's the foundation of the left-right brain processes, of both of them, really. It's the foundation, and it is that simple, but you do have to understand the workings of the subconscious mind. And there's more. We will actually, if somebody's dealing with a trauma, a trauma comes up, we will actually pull them out of the trauma. But I want to qualify that by saying we don't do anything without the consent of that inner life. Like if a person is going through the trauma, when we work with them, we will literally be able to go there and take them out of the trauma that is happening. And when we do that, once again, through first getting the consent of that part that's going through that issue, through that experience, when we pull them out and bring them into this present time, it's not happening anymore. And therefore, the trigger stops. So the left-right brain work is, the foundation of it is the alternate handwriting, where we give you access to that right brain that gets locked out in a time of trauma. And you get to let this part out to speak, to hear what it is that they want and what they need, and therefore you can give it to them. And you get to become your source, because what you'll discover through this work is you connect with this wounded part, and it's you that is giving this part what it needs, letting them know they're not alone anymore, letting them know they're safe, and just making sure that you create enough trust where they can come out of that trauma, they can come out of that looping and into the present day. That's the neurotrauma healing process, which naturally and automatically leads into the soul recognition process, which you said correctly, by the way.
Thank you. And this, in essence, when you're working with a therapist who's trying to extract something from you, there's always that tension, that fear. When you're working with yourself, it's a new experience, a total self-discovery, isn't it?
Well, and this can sound very far out, and it's really funny because it's not where I'm from. I'm a hockey player and an athlete, so this kind of work for me was, it can seem really out there. But when you connect with this life inside of you, it will not seem odd or out of place at all. You will completely identify with it because it's you. It's a part of you. And, I can sit here and try and convince somebody till I'm blue in the face, but until you experience it, it just seems like theory. But it's not theory. You have life inside of you, and this life is alive. And so to connect with this part, yes, it seems very ethereal. And we say there's two prerequisites for this work. One is to be open-minded, because it can seem quite abstract. But as long as you can suspend your judgment, it will show you. I mean, you don't have to try and convince yourself. This part will show you what's going on inside of you and why you're getting what you're getting in your life. And the next part about that is it goes from healing into empowerment. As Dr. Bradshaw said, the wounded child becomes the wonder child. And it's very magical, because when you heal that wounded part that has a belief in separation inside of you, it gets filled with your nature, which is higher consciousness. And it's a stream of well-being that is there, that's just been covered up. And you literally get to let out who you really are through this work.
And that's where soul recognition takes place.
Yes. So I didn't think I could take people from somebody dealing with a deep-seated trauma into what I'll call spiritual liberation in the same book. So I broke them into two books. And the neurotrauma healing process is NTHP, and it introduces the trauma work of the work, which really you can't skip steps. I mean, we all want to be healed and whole, but unless you do that foundational work, you really can't move on to the empowerment aspect. You'll be building castles in the sand, shall we say. So, but what happens when we do that healing work, the NTHP work, and we slow those tapes down to the point of stopping, once again, what comes through us is our nature, which is peace, which is power, which is beauty, which is health, which is abundance, all those things that are our nature. And when I say that, it means we don't have to work at them. It's who we are. It's our natural makeup. They've just been covered over. So when we open that space and this comes through, all of a sudden we have access to this incredible wisdom and intelligence. And as this wounded part of you develops, I'll say, you start to get some very wise guidance and information. In the start, you're letting this part know that they're safe and that it's not happening anymore and so on. But once that part is out of that experience, you're back connected to what I'll call infinite intelligence. And we have incredible intelligence inside of us. And it's at our fingertips. We just haven't, first of all, probably known that there's a life inside of us, and haven't known that we have access to this wisdom, this life inside of us.
And you call it soul food, don't you?
That's what we give our clients homework, aka soul food, because it's all about feeding your soul. And in the soul recognition, that's what really we do, is you learn how to feed yourself and learn how to feed your soul.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When I was in college in the 1970s, I volunteered at a local community health center and was told to interact with some of the inpatients and engage them in positive conversation. Unfortunately, many of them were so heavily sedated, this was virtually impossible. When I asked the psychiatrist in charge about this, he told me these drugs were to psychiatry what penicillin was to bacterial infections. Why are drugs only a stopgap solution?
Yeah, the more I play this game of life, and especially with what I've experienced and doing this work and working with other people, it seems to me that maybe this game is set up quite well. I'll put mildly. And what I mean when I say that is, when we have a chronic condition, when we have an addictive behavior, when we have something that keeps happening that we have not been able to handle, maybe what's happening here is, as long as we keep searching outside of ourselves, it's just going to keep happening. Maybe what's happening is this is the universe's way of getting us to go inside. Because as long as we go outside and try to get somebody else or something else, whether it be a drug, whether it be, a healer who's going to try and heal you, whatever it is, if something doesn't change inside of you, then there's no change, there's no healing. It's not possible. We are powerful. We are creative beings. We are creators, whether we like it or aware of it or not. And we are creating our world from the inside out. What we think and what we believe is what we're experiencing in our world. And most people don't have a clue of what they think and what they believe at that level of that core level and of the subconscious mind.
Absolutely.
And yeah, maybe we're not supposed to. Maybe this subconscious mind isn't supposed to be so subconscious, because we will show you how you have access to this. That is your most powerful creative faculty.
Your original title for Reclaim Your Power was Fighting Shadows in the Dark. What was your impetus to rename it?
Well, that's a really true statement. When anybody who's dealt with trauma understands, you feel like you're on a treadmill that you can't get off. And Fighting Shadows in the Dark seemed appropriate. It just seemed a little bit dark. And I want to inspire hope. And that's why I'm so passionate to bring this forward, is it's because it's a solution. It's not about coping with this or having to deal with this. You can bring this trauma to full resolution. And it does feel like fighting shadows in the dark, because you can't grab onto anything, because, where do you go? What am I? You don't know what you're even dealing with, because you don't have access to that wounded part. So now you can have direct access to that part and give that part what it needs. And once again, the irony is, once you start learning to feed yourself, this inner part, when you give this part what it needs, if it's love that this part needs, you start to give this part love, and guess what happens? Guess what shows up in your outer world? Love. You start showing this part the respect that they've been seeking. Guess what shows up in your outer physical world? Respect. It shows us that we are creators, and it shows us that we are cause to our world, just how powerful we are.
Absolutely. And the outside mirrors the inside. My guest is Dane Stevens. He's the author of Reclaim Your Power to Create Your Best Life. We'll be back with more of Dane after these words on the OMTimes Radio Network.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living. A chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me, and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
A social distancing tip.
Keeping your distance from others is important in slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are some fun things to do alone. Read a book, take a walk, unpack your suitcase from that trip you took last September, paint a self-portrait, catch up on a TV series, do a puzzle. Remember, we should all stay home to lower the risk for everyone. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from New Thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
I was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean when it happened. There was a sudden jolt and our submarine crashed on the seafloor. We were in total darkness.
That's Dr. Dejana Figueroa, a marine biologist and STEM teacher, talking about a deep sea dive she'll never forget.
It's funny, when I was a kid, I was afraid of the ocean, and there I was, 2 miles below the surface. But as a scientist, you prepare for that. Using our training and a little creativity, we fixed the sub and finished our experiments. The dive was just too important. Every dive gives us glimpses at things few people ever get to see. Glowing creatures, fiery undersea volcanoes. When we got back to the surface, I kissed the ground and called my mom, of course. But you know what? I wouldn't trade that dive for anything.
Dr. Figueroa uses her passion for STEM to discover new things and make the world a better place. She can STEM, so can you. Check out She Can STEM for more stories and inspiration. A message from the Ad Council.
Hi, we're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn. But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Back on Destination Unlimited, my guest this week is Dane Stevens. He's the author of Reclaim Your Power to Create Your Best Life. Dane, is anyone else doing this type of work?
Like I say, it's not new. The foundation, which is the alternate handwriting, is not new, but I don't know anybody that's developed it. And once again, it's just a foundation for the work for us. So I don't think so. We have trained facilitators here. Besides us, I don't know of anybody else who does. And I really don't have any question that eventually this will be mainstream. It kind of has to, because it's just too obvious not to be and too simple. But right now, it is still considered an alternative. I don't even call it a therapy as such, but a modality. And we need more people trained in it so the people that need this work and need this healing can get it.
And in your experience, the people who come and get your modality, are they really healed for good?
Yeah, and it's funny because eventually it all comes down to choice. But, we talked about how some people don't want to change. And that's where sometimes people get confronted with, oh, I can change, I can heal. And I've had a couple one person who was actually head of a pain clinic who, really made a connection with this work and just couldn't embrace it, wouldn't, she saw why she was creating what she was creating or why, and had pain in her life. But it's like she had so much identity wrapped in that, she couldn't accept it or wouldn't accept it. So, it's just a matter of us accepting and allowing, because it really brings us back to our nature. And you discover once again that you are the creator of your outer experience, or just how you're experiencing that outer world. I'll say I'm not controlling the outer world. But yeah, when you do this inner work, you can bring it to full resolution, because you take the tape that has been looping, that is causing that chronic condition, that dysfunction in your life, and you bring it to the point of not running anymore. So there's nothing to be triggered. So at that point, it becomes choice. You can keep doing the same thing, and if you'd like to, but you'll probably have to work at it. But for the most part, no, you can bring it to resolution. And, it depends on the person and the situation as to how long it takes. People ask, how long is this going to take? And I say it doesn't take that long, but I also want to reiterate, it's not a quick fix. It's a relationship. And like any relationship, it takes time and it takes effort. So when you make that connection, that relationship to that part within you, as you continue to build that relationship, it gets healthier and healthier and healthier, and you and your life get healthier and healthier and healthier. So it definitely, I mentioned earlier, maybe it's on purpose how these conditions or these chronic conditions play out, because maybe these chronic conditions are the universe's way to get us to go inside.
Yeah.
The only place we can truly get, true healing.
You mentioned that your path of discovery was triggered by a very, very dangerous and horrible experience you had with a therapist. Is there any danger involved in the work that you do?
Safety is key to me in this, and I'll admit I had a bit of a challenge putting the book out, because it does have the full process in it, and I know people are going to try it out. But if they follow, the process, you're following that within you. So as long as you're not trying to force or you're creating a situation that isn't healthy, you'll be fine. With somebody dealing with a deep-seated trauma, we really suggest you come in and see us so that we can, make sure that you get the results that you're looking for. But for the most part, this is introducing you to that inner life. And so we want to keep it as safe and as gentle as possible. And really the only one that can do that is you. So we have the guidelines for it, but it's up to the person to do that. And through the process itself, it is safe and it's gentle, and it's about creating a higher level of trust and compassion for yourself.
What kind of people do you work with? Are there any requirements?
Like I said, the two requirements: to be open-minded, because it's abstract work, and the second one is to be open to the possibility that you're completely responsible for your life, because this work will show you how you are creating your life. And besides that, as long as a person's willing and open, that's really it. And this work will guide us. The process guides us. We don't go in with any preconceived ideas, and we don't direct the work. We let the process guide us. And it works.
You offer training for those that want to become certified. How long does that take, and what does it entail?
So it's not just a course where you do so many hours and you're certified. We start the conversation about training once you've come to a place of wholeness within you. And both the facilitator and the client, they know when it is. And that's when you have traction, when you have a consistently healthy and positive connection and relationship to that life within inside of you. When you have that, that's when, we can talk about the training aspect. And, we do sessions of groups of 12 for the most part. And we have, you have trial sessions if you want to try it out and so on. But in sessions of 12, that within 12 sessions, you will have a full grasp of the work. You'll have a full grasp and a full understanding of the work, and potentially can take it over on your own. Once again, it depends on the person and the situation, the intensity of the trauma, the duration of the trauma, and all that stuff as to how deep it is. But within 1 to 2 months, for sure, you can have traction, and then we go into training from there. So it's different for different people. We give a 6-month window for 6 months to a year for training, and in that it's just about doing your work. And once you do the work, it's just you have the experience of it. So, but you have to come to a place of wholeness within you first.
With physical separation mandated by the COVID pandemic, is this process available over the internet?
Yeah, it's worked out. The timing was quite profound for us because I just did a book tour down the west coast of the U.S. I live in Canada, and I did the book tour down the west coast of the U.S. This winter, and my last event was in Seattle on March 1st, so we came across the border on March 2nd, just before all this craziness broke out. But we've been working with our clients remotely for over a year now, so the timing worked out pretty well. So yeah, it works online, and if for somebody who hasn't done work online, it might seem a little bit different in the start, but it's still very effective. We use a platform like Skype or Zoom, and it works very well, and you can get the results. Yeah.
What is your vision for this work and the process?
So I just want the people that want and need this work to have access to it. So once again, I have no question eventually it'll become mainstream, but right now it's in its infancy. So just to get the word out there about this process and get enough people trained in it so we can create a healthy society. And when I say that, we've all experienced to some degree the effects of mental health. We've experienced in our society in a way where we have paid for our inability to properly handle and deal with mental health. And I really believe that trauma is the very foundation of that. One of the things that I'm so appreciative about this work is when you do this, you bring it to resolution. And sometimes what you're bringing to resolution is a pattern that has been in your lineage for a very long time, and it stops with you, because you have stopped that abuse and you're stopped passing it on. So, I would like this work to continue to have a domino effect of healing people around the world, and people make the connection and heal and keep that energy spreading out like a ring from a drop. Yeah.
I understand you have a new book coming out in 2021. What's that book about?
Unleash Your Genius is coming out in 2021. And it is the soul recognition process. The Reclaim Your Power to Create Your Best Life. It introduces a neurotrauma healing process, and it goes into the empowerment, but not fully. It talks about it. I mean, you can't help but go into empowerment because you're opening that space. But the next book, Unleash Your Genius, goes into the soul recognition process and how to feed ourselves, how to access this wisdom within us, and how to properly utilize that. We use the 4 archetypes. The warrior, the lover, the sovereign, and the magician. And those are just 4 aspects of our being. We all have those 4 aspects. An example is the warrior. I'll use an example of working out is an example of the warrior, where we have to exert ourselves. But it's also somebody like maybe we're doing our taxes and we got to get down to business and get her done. We have to kick our warrior in there too. The lover aspect of us that needs that beauty, that needs that maybe touch and sensuality, whether it be nature, or flowers, or a bubble bath, or what have you. We all have that need too. So we have these 4 aspects of our being, and when we learn to feed them, when we learn to give ourselves what we need in these 4 aspects of our being, it's like these 4 spokes of the wheel are aligned and it rolls easily, and you go into a place of effortless effort. Of, first of all, your natural talents and abilities will come forth as you do the healing work. And as you start to feed yourself, these 4 aspects of the wheel roll smoothly together. So it's it's profound because you're feeding yourself, and it really makes sense to you because it is you. It's allowing you to be more of who you really are.
Absolutely. His name is Dane Stevens. His book is Reclaim Your Power to Create Your Best Life. Dane, please tell our listeners where they can get your book and your websites and about the events that you have coming.
Yeah, and you can get the Reclaim Your Power book on Amazon. It's Reclaim Your Power to Create Your Best Life. And you can also go to my website, danestevensonline.com, and that's DANESTEVENS online.com, or anextraordinarylife.ca. That's anextraordinarylife.ca. And I also have an event coming up on October 14th, which introduces people to the neurotrauma healing process. So by all means, come and check it out. It'll show you what it's all about and how it works and if it's for you. And that's on October 14th at 5 p.m. Pacific, so it'd be 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and it's for an hour. And it's online, so no problem, and it'll show you everything about it in detail. And it's only $25, and you can go on to either one of the sites and sign up there. And love to help you to break free from your past. It is not only possible, it is a reality now.
Dane, thank you for joining us and for sharing this information and your programs and your work at this critical time in our society and in our world. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Victor. Been a pleasure.
And thank you for joining us on Destination Unlimited. I'm Victor, the Voice Fuhrman. Have a wonderful week.